Hey everybody, welcome back. We are going to be doing a DIY. I am so excited. My last DIY was I think a little over a year ago, and it does not seem that long ago. I'm really excited to do this DIY, particularly because I got a new tripod. I don't know why I didn't do this sooner because I love doing DIY projects so much, but it's one of the tripods that just tilt forward so you can just hover it above things, and it's going to be so much easier to demonstrate what I want to show you, so I'm super excited about that. So what are we going to be doing? As some of you may know, I used to run a shop on Etsy called Nancy the Spider, and this was roughly, I want to say like 5-6 years ago. And I had to stop when I started school for aesthetics and kind of followed a entirely different path. But I ran my shop since 2009, and it was a lot of fun, and it was something that I got really good at. You know, when you find something that you're good at, if you stick with it, you can only get better. And if you're not good at anything else, well, at least you're really good at one thing. And this is one of those things that I'm just really good at, is the whole shred and weave process. So the best combination of fabric that you want is going to be a 95 to 5 or 96 to 4% of cotton to spandex. The 95 being the cotton, and then the spandex being the 4 to 6%. So that's the best kind. You want the spandex because it's going to give you that stretch. This top that we're going to do is going to be a combination of a few of the designs that I had in my shop. It's going to be two. It's going to be on a turtleneck. So a few of the things that you're going to need, I know that I said it was a no-sew, but I'm going to be doing needle and thread here. So this is optional because I just like a clean edge. That's just kind of the way that I do it. I prefer a clean edge. Good structured chaos. So needle and thread, optional. You're going to need scissors. Definitely. This is not something you can swap out, because if you manage to do this without scissors, I will be surprised. Okay, so the reason this comes into play, and this is a neutral eyeliner, I can't find my white, but a neutral works as well because the top is black, is because we're going to be weaving the front. Now, you don't necessarily have to weave the front because we're going to be doing the sleeves. You can leave the front completely blank if you want to and just do the sleeves. But if you're doing the front and you're a little bit conscious about how low it goes, this is going to come in handy, because put the shirt on first and then mark exactly how low you want it to go. Like, kind of find your area where you're comfortable and then just mark it. And then you know where to stop. Again, optional. I'm not going to be using it because I've been doing this for friggin' years, so I know exactly where to put it. If you've watched my previous shred and weaves, we either stick to the straight ladder or the twist. And this one's going to be a little bit more intricate. I think that if you've watched my previous ones, you're probably going to be well prepared to take this on. If you've done the previous ones before and you were successful, you totally got this. So again, shirt, scissors, needle and thread, optional. Something to look for when you're looking for shirts to cut and weave is you want to make sure that the weave isn't visible. What I mean by weave is the fabric itself. For example, if the weave was super thick on the fabric, like really visible, once you cut it and pull it, it's going to go to like 20 feet long. I learned this one the hard way. It was a regular small t-shirt, and then I ended up with fabric like this long. The reason it's really important is because the fabric responds the best to the whole cut and weave process. So when you cut it, you pull it, the ends curl under, and it creates a natural seam. The thicker the weave that you can see on the fabric, which is the ridges that you see, the more you can see the ridges, the more visible they are, the worse it's going to be for the whole process. It's going to cut, it's going to pill. When you cut it, it's going to look jagged, it's not going to look smooth, and it's just not great for the whole process. Can you do it? Absolutely. Is it going to look good? It's good for practice. So, you know, if you have any of those types of shirts lying around and you really want to get your practice in, by all means. Without wasting too much time and talking your ear off, let's get to the DIY. First, we need to separate the front from the back. Doing this is going to ensure that when we start to cut, our cuts are confined to one side only. In this case, the front of the shirt. So while doing this, you want to align the seams on both sides. So run your fingers down the seam, flip it over, maneuver it however you need to ensure that they're aligned. And doing this is going to ensure symmetry. If the seams aren't aligned, then your cuts are going to be super uneven. Next, as close to the neck seam as possible without actually cutting into the neck seam, make a tiny little snip. This is going to serve as an anchor, so I'm not going to count this as a cut, but you always start and end a weave with these little snips. We're going to make 9 cuts in total, starting large and getting smaller as we go with each cut, like an upside down triangle. Remember, when you unfold the shirt, the cuts are going to be twice as long, so ignore the urge to make the cuts larger. If they're too small, you can always go in later and make them bigger. Okay, onto the sleeves. So again, allowing the seams to be your guide, align the shoulder seams. This is so that we can cut both sleeves at one time and have the cuts be identical on both sides. So make sure to work out any wrinkles or kinks so that you don't end up with any wonky cuts. This is where we get fancy. We're gonna cut these sleeves in a pattern. Starting with a little anchor snip at the top, we're gonna do 4 cuts of the upside down triangle, the first cut being the longest. 4 cuts to make the triangle, followed by 3 cuts about a 1/2 inch long just below the triangle, and just repeat that pattern down the sleeve. So it's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4 cuts for the triangle, followed by 1, 2, 3 1/2 inch cuts. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and just repeat it as long as you can until sleeve runs out. So I'm gonna do as many cuts as I can in this pattern that the sleeve has room for, and whatever space you have left at the end, just follow it with as many 1/2 inch cuts that you can fit before the wrist seam. Did I mention never cut seams? Never cut seams. Okay, I've never had to explain this before, so let's hope I get this right. You're gonna wanna take your first strip and pull it through the anchor. Second through the first, third through the second, fourth through the third, fifth through the fourth, sixth through the fifth, seventh through the sixth, and then your 8th through. And then you're gonna wanna anchor it with your scissors, kind of hold it, frig. Okay, starting again. First through the anchor, second through the first, third through the second, fourth through the third, and so on and so on. But you're gonna leave the last little anchor, leave that alone, because we're gonna use that to sew it to. Now you're going to pull the weave out toward the end because we're going to be working on a fairly intricate pattern. Count 3 strips down. Don't count the anchor strip. Count from the first long strip. Take the third strip, pull it under the bottom 2, as you can see, and then through the anchor hole. And then we're going to twist it, and then you're going to take the second, pull it through, third, pull it through, and twist. And we're going to do the same thing. Take the third, 1, 2, 3, pull it under the other 2, pull it through that little loop that we were holding, twist, and pull it through as you go down. And then this is the pattern that it creates. God, I hope I explained that well. See? Cute. So now you're going to pull this through the final loop, twist it, pull it through the final loop, and that's what we're going to use to pull through the anchor. So you're going to cut that bit in half. This is the part that I hate the most because this is a make or break moment. Hold it tight because it can come unraveled if you don't cut it properly or not holding it tight enough. You can either tie this off, cut it, and you just take one side of the loop and you pull it through the little anchor hole. Can you hear how frantic I am? Pull it through the anchor. Now you can tie this in a double knot and cut it, but I don't do that here. What I'm going to do is I'm flattening out the fabric because it curls under like a seam. So it's more like a shoelace, it looks like. But we need to flatten it out and then sew it flat. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm sewing. I cut a bit out because I jabbed myself something fierce in the index finger and I began to bleed. But I don't think we're allowed to show that on YouTube, so I didn't show that part. And you don't need to see it anyway. So I'm just going to sew this bit up, and what I like to do after I've sewn things up, I like to take it a step further and then I turn it inside out, and then pull it so just the seam sits just under the anchor and you can't see it. See? I can explain basic weaves, basic bladders, but when it comes to the intricate ones, it's so tough for me. Okay, take the third strip, pull it under the first two and through the anchor. And then you're gonna twist it, and you're gonna pull the first strip through the third, and then the second strip through the first. Visuals don't fail me. I hope this makes sense. Hopefully when we put these two together, it makes sense. And then you're gonna just basically twist as you go down. These are the little pain in the butt parts because they're a little bit thinner, they're smaller, they're tougher to work with. But the last strip that you see, the little last loop, that's gonna be your anchor for the next row. And you're gonna wanna hold on to that. But it makes a really nice pattern, so it's worth it. Moving on to the next row, you're gonna take your third strip, pull it underneath the first two, and pull it through your anchor. And then you're gonna take the first, pull it through that third and twist it. Always twist once as you go down. Twist, first one through the second one through the first, twist. Now for these last strips, do you see the four that we have beneath the triangle pattern? You don't have to actually twist. You can do a basic ladder. I don't know why I was torturing myself. I think I just got in the twisting mode and then I was just stuck at that point. But once I made it to the end, I realized that I was working harder, not smarter. But you want to twist when it comes to the triangular pattern. That's necessary because you can't create that without it. So once again, third strip, under the first two, pull it through your anchor, which is the last loop, and then first through the third, and then second through the first. And the annoying bits. I'm gonna stick with you all the way through to the wrist because I really wanna make sure that I'm explaining this properly so the visual matches, and I hope that you get this because it is a really nice pattern. I'm just really bad at explaining. And continuing, here we go. Third. Oh, coming closer. Here we go. Third strip, under the first two, and we're gonna pull it through the last loop that we created, twist it. Keep next, as we go down, you just grab the next strip as you go down and twist. Again, the four that go underneath the triangle, you don't need to twist it. Don't torture yourself like I did. So as I went down, you can see that there's just a bunch of regular strips. I explained that as I was cutting it. So if you run out of space to repeat the pattern, you can just do that. And it still looks really good. So as I said, I just did a basic ladder at this point. I was like, you know what? I'm not doing the twists anymore because my wrist was killing me. My fingers were killing me. I had a hole in my index finger for where I stabbed with the pin, or the needle rather. So made it. I made it through, made it to the bottom. So you're gonna leave that last strip alone. There's one left. You're gonna wanna cut this bit, be super careful because one wrong move and it just unravels straight up the top. So see that last loop that we left? Pull one strip through. And as I said, when you're weaving the front, you can either tie it off, double knot, and it'll be good to go, or you can do what I do and sew it because like I said, I just like a neat, clean edge. Something about a nice edge. Like I said, structured chaos. Speed sewing! And then turn it inside out, and you pull it under. See what I mean? The effect is worthwhile, and you get this really cool crisscross pattern. It's a pain, but it's worth it.